Fancy intro music, yeah! Woo!
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about crewing. And normally at this part of the year, or this part of the month, the start of the month, we do a bad crew video. And we will probably still do one of those this week. But what I wanted to do today was talk about crewing from the angle of, yo, what if I don't have all these officers that you have, Rev? I get that a lot. I'm sorry. I haven't forgot about you. We will do videos like this where we talk about, look, sometimes you just don't have 3 purples to put on one ship. It's okay. So today we're going to talk about loading out ships based on what you have. And what we're going to do to attack this problem is kind of focus on it from a basic standpoint. Like, what are some of the goals that you want to have when crewing out a ship? So we'll go over some basics. This is kind of a mix between crewing and then, you know, our recent series where we're talking about new players in a Star Trek Fleet Command guide. So we're going to actually use my level 20 account on server 63 with this. And you can see my very sexy Tala. Look at this Tala. Isn't she pretty? A little Andorian ship. She's so lovely. I do have a North Star, though, just FYI. There we go. Going to have me 100,000 power ship. Just you wait. But what you're going to have is, for a lot of players, running into the problem that I have on this account, you don't have a lot of officers. Now, I do, of course, encourage you to do the techniques that we'll talk about at the end of this video, how to acquire a lot of these officers. You can see I'm a little bit behind on this account. You know, obviously, you know, you want to be pulling as many officers as you can, as often as you can, like I am right now. But you are going to still have a trouble when it comes to getting a lot of the officers you need. Like Kang, well, you're going to be going a long time for him, and then you want to pull every faction that you can. And then there's some Gorkon shards, but could have used a little bit of everything else. But look what I've got here. You know, I'm not, any of these starter groups even have most of the rares yet. So now it's okay, well, what can I do, or what I'll focus on when I'm a low level player, or I'm just a player who needs to create like a PvP crew, but I can't do it. So we've got a basic crew here for hostile grinding with our LaForge, our Crusher, and our Chin. Just a basic crew to fight hostiles. But what if I wanted to do some PvP? There are some options for us there. So what we're going to do is we're going to clear this out, and we're going to try to find some officers that we can use in PvP on this Tala. So the very first thing I want to point out is, besides officer's ability, you obviously want the bridge and the captain to have some form of offensive ability. Now, I can say some of the early officers that you're going to get are the Borg officers, who will do that and will help you in 2 ways. And that is with their officer ability, increasing the attack of officers on the ship. Now, why is that important? Simple answer, simply because, look, you're probably not going to have a lot of the PvP officers that give you some of the abilities that you're looking for. And you can use something like this. Swap this over. And now we've got a starter Borg set that can operate in PvP. Now, this is not necessarily amazing, but you have a captain's ability that works. 8% more damage to the shield health instead of hull health, which what that simply means is that shields are now going to stop 88% instead of stopping 80. So helping out that little bit. And then we're going to stack below. Now, most importantly, I really have to push this, and this is every player. You want to max out health, attack. Those are the ones you want to focus on as much as you possibly can. So now we're going to sort by strength. We want to get the strongest officers that we can. You see the bonus going up right there. Let's put on LaForge there, and then, you know, let's put on Azaber. And then you see 168, 168, but we haven't got that health up. So let's switch it over to health. Okay, where's my highest health officer? What does that do? Gets me a little bit better in that range I'm looking for, as well as got my defense score to 192, even though it's a little bit inconsequential. So we're going to apply that, and now I have better bonuses, which increases my stats. Now, attack is going to increase my DPR and the amount of damage I'm doing, and health is going to help improve these hull numbers, which means I'm going to survive longer in a fight. And that's kind of the big thing that we're looking for there, is we want to see how long can we survive. And that's also one of the reasons we focus on health when it comes to PvE grinding. If you're fighting red hostiles, in terms of officer bonus, you want to max out that health first and then work on attack after that. And as we talked about in previous videos, remember, once you get to the max here, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about going past it. It does not do anything for you. unless you have an officer that pulls from those stats. So I've got 9 of 11 increasing defense of every officer, and then I've got 8 doing the attack. Now, there are other officers that we can use. This is simply an example of, look, you want to start looking at abilities, how they apply. And what I mean by that is, we talked about this recently, look at an officer like Talon. She does not work at all versus a player. She is only for reds. Objective: if the opponent's a hostile. Now, as you read that, you're going to think, yo, this can work against anybody that's bad. Wrong. It does not work against anybody that's bad. It only works against reds. So you're going to take that into account when you load that out on a ship. But then you also can start working on something like Lennar, who is an anti-Klingon officer, armadas, PvE, reds, and PvP. But you got to level it up. A 25% bonus based off crew's attack is really not going to be that much, especially since my attack, that's 500 points. So Lennar's not going to help me a great deal, even as a low-level player, until he gets leveled up. So it's understanding some of these abilities and looking for officers that can apply. Another example is if we want to take a look at Koth. Will we ever use him? I have nobody who turns on hull breach, so obviously not there. And then kinetic weapons. Remember to always look. Do you have a kinetic weapon on your ship? Nope. I've got phase cannons. That's all I've got. And if you look at the icon, this is going to be the phase icon, and that's going to show energy. We know, don't need to even fool with a kinetic officer on the boat. But more importantly, crewing out early on, focus on these crew stats over there on the far side and getting those as high as possible. And then finding something that can work here. And you can use a litany of officers. I simply threw this up as an example. The cadets can be very good in PvP depending on where you're at or what you have. And the miners are great for stat stacking early on in the game. So that if you're trying to get to 300%, 200%, 500%, whatever is the max for your ship, then you can use those to help build towards that. Now, I will say a lot of people are going to wonder, why are my stats so low for these officers? Well, simple answer is I've not leveled most of them. I wait for events because this XP is very, very valuable. I don't want to waste it unless there's an event going on that I can use it for now as I accrue it for more important officers. And then I probably won't even use it on things like commons more than I already have. The reason being is I understand that late game rares and epics are really the only cards that matter, with a few uncommons, the greens, that have some value. You look at an officer like Lennar, a lot of value there. But still probably not going to devote a lot of resources into him because he doesn't help me a lot early on. But then you look at something like the miners here, like Barrett, T'Pring, Stan. Do you even need to level them up? You do if you're going to use them for away team missions for those stats. But you know, their abilities don't get better if you level them up by level. Tier is what determines what's better. So this video is kind of trying to focus on pointing you towards good and bad crews, but we've actually just kind of talked about basic strategies for all players, whether you're level 15 or 35, going through what works and what doesn't. Now, once again, would I necessarily need to level up Cadet Scotty? No. But I definitely need his warp theory to be maxed. He's currently tier 3. I would want him to be tier 5, but would I spend the actual officer experience to level him up and max him? These are things and mistakes that I did when I first started the game that I won't do on playthroughs as I go through. However, other side of that, you look at an officer like Captain James T. Kirk, one of the cadets. This can actually be useful in PvP. A very slight weapons damage boost. It's nothing insane. It's not super good, but it can help out and actually give you a tactical advantage versus maybe an opponent who, like many younger players, put Keenser on there. Put anything on there that simply doesn't apply for the fight at hand. I think that's the key that we're talking about today, is loading out and focusing on abilities and really taking the time to read some of these, because they can be a bit confusing. Honestly, it's the best way to describe it. I'm not trying to say that in a way to just down the game, but it can be very, very confusing for a new player to read some of these abilities and not understand really how they work. Leslie's a good example. Let me pull up Leslie. Now, many of you aren't going to have Leslie because this is a purchased officer, but as long as the ship's hull health is under 35%, Leslie restores it by 5% at the end of the round. Sounds great. Actually works really well, but here's the kicker. Once that bonus happens, after the battle, the bonus goes away. So what happens is when you use Leslie, you die. Let me explain real quickly how that works. Leslie is going to artificially repair the hull. So in your head, the hull is at 100%. Now let's say that Leslie, after you've taken damage, repairs 70%. So the game sees 170% hull. Now, if you took 160% hull damage after the battle, that 70% goes away and you go back to 100, but you still took 160% damage. So boom, you might have won the fight, but after that bonus goes away and gets wiped off, the game blows you up. So, and by the way, I'm not necessarily that's a good mechanic, just explaining how it works. It's good to, one, find content creators like myself, like their videos, subscribe, hit that little button, hit the bell, and then ask questions in the comments to find out what type of officers might have those type of effects. But more importantly, is focusing on the simple tools and focusing on what makes you better as a player. Things like basic officers like Yuki as a captain will always be good, whether you're level 15 or level 55. Yuki as captain is a fantastic PvP officer, but you still need to find ways to augment that using various things. And, you know, sometimes that can mean loading out with Borg and then doing it to where we get as much officer bonus as possible. And honestly, a 36.8k Tala at level 20, that's not even level 35, is pretty strong. I mean, that can go after quite a few ships, maybe even some of those jellyfish that like to rain terror down from the heavens. But anyway, this crewing video is a little bit different, focusing on newer players, but some good bits here for all of you out there. And if you like the video, like I said, smash the like button. Live long and prosper. Stay safe with our Space Cowboys. Deuces. That's me. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch the next one. New art dropping soon, and that means bye.
An even better outro than the intro. For the Empire and glory to your house.